What is yellow? What is black? And what is sweet? Could only mean one thing. Roll that intro.
Hey guys, this is Gus G and you're watching Guitar Gear Guy. Thank you for tuning in.
Nah, a little too predictable. Hello everyone, how are you? This is yours truly, Triple G. This is take number 2 because apparently I shot the whole video and I didn't have the freaking microphone on, so there was no audio. So here I go again. Alright, so if you are new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. My channel is all about guitar and related gear, which I all own myself and I pay for myself. Nothing ever sponsored or given to me in any shape or form. This is all about unbiased, unsolicited trials and tribulations of what I go through as a non-professional musician, weekend warrior, your neighborhood chump that really needs to practice more than continue to buy more gear. But apparently I, regardless, still buy more gear as if doing that will magically make me play any better. So that's how I ended up with all these videos, how I ended up with all these guitars, and I share with you my thoughts and my opinion. I don't ever review particular gear, I just share with you my thoughts based on what I see and feel. So if all that sounds good to you, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so I can come see you more often. If you are a repeat visitor, thank you for spending time with me again. I really do appreciate. Alright, so let's move on to the guitar. Okay, so before I go into nuts and bolts of the guitar, let me share with you, give you a little bit of the background, as today's generation here in year 2020 may not be familiar with the band Stryper or its frontman Michael Sweet, who this guitar is a signature model of. So back in the 80s, a whole bunch of hair metal bands just ruled the world, which I sort of miss. And a lot of bands had, bands were coming out of the woodworks, and a bunch of different bands. They all had to have, something special that made them stand out among, the sea of bands. And Stryper, the band, had the thing where they were the Christian metal band. So I don't know if that was a shtick or I don't know, but that was their thing, and it, I guess, it stood out because back in those days you had bands like Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, Wasp, you had Dio with the devil horn, so lots of devil, demon, evil stuff going on with, you know, bikes and womanizers and, you know, things like that. So here was the band. They had the very wholesome look, even with the hair metal crowd, and Michael looked really pretty. Don't take that personally, Michael. I really love you. He actually looks really great. He aged really, really well. Anyhow, so that was the band, and you know, they definitely looked the part for the 80s metal scene, and looking the part also, man, I'm sure they got a lot of action back in those days, if you know what I mean. Although that might have gone against the whole Christianity thing, so whatever. So there you go. That's the background on the Stryper and Michael Sweet. So now let's talk about the guitar. This is a Washburn Parallax Michael Sweet Signature model, as I have told you earlier. So the Parallax line of guitars from Washburn, meant for rock and kind of a metal scene, and you will find features throughout this guitar as well as other Parallax models that really appeal to that sort of genre. Definitely for your local bluegrass, country, and, you know, jazz gigs, right? Now, before I go into details of the specs of this model does come with a USA custom as well as import from Indonesia. Now, the one I'm showing you today that I own is an Indonesian import. Gone are the days of where you could just kind of scoff at import because it was an import, not US made. Because the import line of guitars nowadays that have a tremendous value and quality. Now, quality comes from the you know, the improvement in overall manufacturing process and, you know, quality assurance program each company employs, because it's such a competitive market to sell guitars nowadays. You will find a lot of great imports, especially from Indonesian factories, because it's gone from Japan to Korea and Korea to Indonesia, and this guitar does speak quality through and through, as I will show you. The US model of this guitar has the Fisherman Fluence pickups, whereas this import version has the Seymour Duncan designed blackouts, still active, as is shown here in the battery compartment somewhere here on the back. And there are subtle differences between the USA custom model that Michael plays on the stage as well as on recording, I'm sure, versus the import model. But I think the differences may be somewhat negligible, especially considering the cost implication. The body of the guitar is mahogany, and then there's a conflicting information about the neck. On Washburn's website, it stipulates that this is a maple neck, whereas on Sweetwater's it says it's a mahogany neck. So I'll go with the Washburn's statement, since they made the dang thing. So we'll go with that. Not to say human error may not exist, but I can't tell because it's painted black. I can't tell whether it's maple or mahogany. And I don't have enough trained ears that I can identify the neck material. The fretboard, ebony, looks really nice, and 24 jumbo frets with a 14-inch radius. Now 14 inches is pretty sweet because it's not as rounded as old Fender guitars where your bending becomes a problem. It's not so flat, so it's just kind of in that happy medium area, which I really like. The scale length is 25.5, and then there's the, again, another little conflicting information. On Washburn's website, it says this import version would have the Floyd Rose original. However, this is a Floyd Rose special. Not that there's anything wrong with that. The website also specified this model would have a 34mm brass block in the back. As far as the tuning machines are concerned, it is it's a Grover 18:1 ratio tuners. Now the US version would have something slightly better than these, but still from Grover. And as most of the Parallax models would have, this features the Buzz Fightin tuning system. I think it's better if it's Buzz Fightin because that really as a play on the word. And the pickups, as I mentioned earlier, Duncan designed the blackouts. So I think Duncan design would mean that it's a spec that just as the same as the normal USA Santa Barbara made blackouts, but just wound and made overseas and flown in. Now, on the Washburn's website, it also says that Michael had them spec'd where the bridge pickup would be mounted to the neck position and the neck pickup would be mounted to the bridge position. I did not dismount the pickups to confirm verify because I'm not Trogley. Trogley, I love you, by the way. Now, there is no funky business going on here with the push, pull, coil splitting, none of that junk business. This is a straight up melt your effing face off a rocking machine. Master volume, master tone, three-way toggle, straight up, simple, ready to go. The guitar does come with a nice posh gig bag, which does its job. Now, I got this guitar last year at some point, I forget exactly when, but I received it on the same day I received Ibanez Steve Vai Blue Floral guitar. So when they were both out of the respective boxes upon delivery, this thing was set up perfectly, action was perfect, stayed in tune when it made the cross-country flight, whereas the Blue Floral from Ibanez, the Steve Vai Gem, that thing was not set up as nicely as this. So it speaks volume in terms of how well this guitar was made and set up. And fast forward several months, today's March 2020, and this guitar is still in phenomenal condition. The tuning was nearly spot on, and there's absolutely no issue in terms of the guitar through the weather changes and whatever else. Now that I have talked to you all about the specs of the guitar, let me give you my impressions and thoughts and opinions. So I am unapologetically a huge fan of a V guitar, Explorers actually too. Well, then again, I do love the single cuts as well and the double cuts. So okay, so I do all shape of guitars, but I just really love the V's. Even though I'm a huge fan of the V guitars and everything else, I am not a huge fan of the reverse headstock, and this headstock is actually pretty small even compared to some of the other reverse stock headstock guitars that I own. I think that also attributes to how well this guitar balances. Headstock is somewhat smaller than normal, and I think that helps the guitar balance really well when you have it strapped on. Now, in terms of the body is concerned, this guitar does not have just a flat top. Of course, it doesn't have an arch top or anything, but it does feature this bevel, 45-degree angle bevel that tapers towards the middle portion of the guitar. So what it does, I'm sure it's just a design feature, not an ergonomic kind of feature, but because of that bevel, if you were to play, your forearm is actually resting comfortably against the edge of the guitar instead of, you know, it being 90 degrees where your forearm is just kind of digging in kind of thing. But I'm sure that was not the reason, but it does have a really nice bevel that makes it really stand out among other V-shaped guitars. So the best way I could explain this little bevel is, if PRS would make a V, as funny as that may sound, the S2 V would feature a bevel cut like what this is. And then this guitar, let's make no mistake about it, this guitar with this paint job and the shape is a really screaming, hey, look at me. That's what this guitar is in terms of its paint job and the shape. So as far as the paint job is concerned, really well done. Carries on that 80s Stryper spirit, and the bright neon yellow really makes the guitar pop. So if you have it on the stage, if you're just rocking out, you would definitely stand out. The offset V look resembles more of ESP Alexi Laiho shape, more so than Jackson Randy shape. Now that also means it has this lower bout over here where the access to upper register higher frets would be a lot easier, and even that is really, again, closer to Alexi Laiho model. Now, I don't know what is going on with this guitar and its neck design, but let me tell you, the magic of this guitar is in its neck profile. It is definitely not thick. It is definitely not the thinnest neck you would have ever seen, but what I don't know if this is a unique profile, but god dang, this is one of the best, if not the best neck profiles I've ever laid my left hand onto. Just feels so comfortable, and it's just pure joy to go riff on this. And if you are a type that you could shred, I'm sure you'll find this guitar just plenty fun to shred on. Just neck is just on point. That's the only way I can describe. As mentioned earlier, the pickups are the import version of the Blackouts, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I did notice my untrained ears, so take that for what it's worth. As you creep up on your gain knob on your amp, they do start losing clarity and definition a little bit earlier than compared to other pickups. So all pickups will start losing clarity and definition as you go up on gain knob, because it'll get a little bit flubby and kind of loose and whatnot. But it does happen just maybe a tad bit quicker than others. So I think I might have a USA version of the Duncan Blackouts spare just laying around, so when the time comes for string change, I might take these off and put those in if they share the same 4-pin connectors like the normal Blackouts do. So that may be in the future. So not many guitars get often mistaken based on their appearance. So such as Eddie Van Halen Frankenstein, instantly recognizable. Randy Rhoads Pinstripe Concord, same thing. Buddy Guy's Polka Dot, instantly recognizable. SRV Strat, very much so. Michael Schenker's Black and White two-faced paint job, same thing, very recognizable. This perhaps not as recognizable because probably not as many people would have been into Stryper, but those of us who grew up in the 80s would be able to instantly identify what this guitar is and, you know, the man behind it, the band behind it. So set aside from the appearance of the guitar, what makes this guitar really special and a home run in my opinion is just its playability. Of course, the craftsmanship and build is just flawless. There's nothing I really can say negative about. I'm really happy with this purchase. But the playability is just superb. As mentioned earlier, the neck profile is just awesome. I don't know if they use a different polyurethane finish on this, but even though it's a glossy neck, not a satin neck, it's not as, the friction is not as pronounced as some of the other shiny coat neck guitars, and just really, really nice to play. I always say this about signature guitars. Now, would the guitar be able to stand on its own if the artist's name is detached from it? So if this guitar didn't carry Michael Sweet's signature moniker, is this a fine V guitar on its own? And my answer to that is absolutely yes, because it is. Washburn did a really great job producing this guitar. The build quality is great, design features are great, and appointments are reasonably fine. The price may have been a little bit better if it was in the $700 or $800 range, but that could be easily done if you purchase the guitar, let's say secondhand, or during holiday sale. Maybe you get 10%, 15% off. Then I think it's just a sweet deal, no pun intended. So if you are in the market for something different than your typical Jackson V's or the old school Gibson V, or God forbid that atrocious or horrendous looking new V from Dean, the Kerry King signature model. So if you're looking for something different than that, give this guitar a look, because it is quality in just spoken in volume. Just superbly built guitar, super neck, well finished, the fret job and just everything just greatly built. You could buy something a lot worse for a lot more expensive, let me tell you. All right, so that will wrap up this episode. I'll come back and see you again with another episode sometime soon. That would be with something a little bit more traditional looking guitar. If you have stuck around this long far into the video, thank you. I really appreciate it. Again, hit the subscribe, hit the bell notification, hit the like button, please. That does help the channel and the video and myself a lot. And again, I thank you for your time. I know there's a lot of videos out there that you could be watching instead of mine. So I do thank you. So with that, you've been awesome. I've been Triple G. Until next time, you guys all take care. Be good humans. Triple G out.